The first time I saw it, I thought it was a dream. Nestled in the heart of Willow Creek's town square, the display window of Aurelia Boutique glowed like a portal to a different world. Soft lighting bathed the mannequin, illuminating a dress that looked like it had been woven from moonlight and stardust. Champagne satin hugged the bodice like a second skin, while delicate pearl-lined straps added a whisper of class. The tulle skirt fell in graceful folds, layered in shimmer and promise. It wasn't a dress, it was a moment. I froze on the sidewalk, my heart skipping a beat as my breath fogged the glass. I didn't know dresses could do that to a person, but this one did. It pulled something out of me, something tender, raw, and almost painful. Wow, I whispered to no one. Dad's voice pulled me back. You like it? He asked, his hands in the pockets of his worn work jacket. He sounded tired, like always. I turned to him, trying to hide the look on my face. The one that said, I've already fallen in love with it. It's okay, I shrugged. Pretty, I guess. He squinted through the glass, nodded thoughtfully. It's beautiful. He agreed, but probably not for us. I didn't expect anything more. After Mom died, things hadn't just changed. They'd flipped inside out. Dad worked day and night, just to keep things afloat. Sometimes there was gas, sometimes there wasn't. Sometimes there was dinner, sometimes just toast. The school's senior dance was coming up in 2 weeks. My friends were talking about it like it was the Met Gala. There were group chats, Pinterest boards, even a hair and nail appointment calendar circulating. And me. I was just trying not to look desperate. Back at home, I ordered a budget dress online. 75% off, final sale, arriving in 5 business days. I clicked confirm with tears in my eyes. That night, I heard Dad on the phone. No, I can't pick up another shift this weekend. I've already got 2 doubles. He said, then after a pause, yeah. I know, she's growing up too fast. Man, I blinked, and suddenly she's applying to colleges. I pressed my ear closer to the hallway wall. Her mom would have loved to see her in something special. He said, but you should have seen the way she looked at that dress. Like it could fix everything. Silence. Yeah, but it's almost $800. I can't drop that kind of money, not now. I crawled back to bed, heart heavy with guilt and love all tangled together. I didn't want him to feel pressure. I didn't want him to know how much I wanted that dress. But deep down I hoped. A stupid, dangerous hope. Over the next few days, Dad was strange. Distant but alert. He was constantly on his phone, but always shut it off when I walked in. I caught him looking at my online order receipt one morning, and quickly hiding it behind the cereal box. He started coming home later than usual. Dark circles rimmed his eyes, and he winced when he bent down to take off his work boots. What's up with you? I asked once. He smiled, but his eyes didn't match. Just working on something, he said. A little project. I thought maybe he was planning a surprise. Then I told myself not to be silly. The night before the dance, I stayed late at school to help decorate the gym. Streamers, lights, and a photo booth that barely worked. It wasn't magical, but it was ours. I got home around 9 p.m. The house was dark, except for the flickering glow from the living room. Music was playing. Vinyl jazz, the kind Mom used to hum to in the kitchen. I called out, Dad. No answer. That's when I saw it. A large, gold-wrapped box sitting on the couch. I approached it slowly, like it might disappear if I blinked too fast. Then I saw the note. To my girl, who deserves to shine like her mama always said she would. Dad. My heart flipped. I dropped my backpack, breath catching in my throat. Open it, his voice said from behind me. I turned. He looked nervous, terrified. Actually, his hands were behind his back, and he was rocking slightly on his heels. I peeled the tape back and pulled open the lid. There it was. The dress. The champagne satin, pearl-trimmed, dream-in fabric dress. The one from the boutique window. The one I had pretended to forget. I gasped, Dad, no you didn't. I did, he said quietly. But how? We couldn't. I sold the Harley, he said. The old one in the garage. My jaw dropped. That bike was his pride and joy. Mom once joked he loved it almost as much as he loved her. But you've been restoring it for years, I whispered. He shrugged. It was just metal. You're my girl, and you only get one night like this. I broke. Tears spilled down my cheeks, hot and fast. I didn't try to wipe them away. He walked over, pulled me into his chest, and hugged me tighter than he had in months. Mom would have wanted you to wear this. He murmured. I couldn't let you walk in there in anything less. The morning of the dance, I barely slept. I woke up at 4 a.m., with the dress still hanging over my closet door, casting a golden silhouette across the room. I kept staring at it like it might disappear. Dad had already left for work by the time I came downstairs. But on the kitchen counter, next to a breakfast sandwich wrapped in foil, sat a small note in his handwriting. Let the world see the fire in you. She'd be so proud of you, Dad. My chest tightened. I placed the note in my bag, right next to my lip gloss and hairpins. By late afternoon, I was getting ready. My friend Danielle came over to help with my hair. Loose curls swept to one side, just how Mom used to do it. We laughed and talked through my nerves, but when I pulled the dress over my head, the room fell silent. Danielle's mouth dropped. Girl, you look like a fairy tale. I turned to the mirror, and for the first time in months, I believed it. When we arrived at the school gym, it was buzzing, music, laughter, camera flashes, 1,000 moving pieces. But the moment I stepped inside, everything slowed. Heads turned, people stared. Someone gasped, "Isn't that the Orlia boutique dress?" A few whispered, a few pointed. But then something beautiful happened. A hush fell over the room, and then came the compliments. "Whoa, you look incredible. Where'd you get that? I didn't even recognize you." My friends rushed me, squealing and fussing over every detail of the dress. I smiled, floated even, but deep down, I knew exactly who deserved the credit. Dad. I pulled out my phone and texted him. Everyone's staring at your masterpiece. You gave me the best night of my life. He didn't reply immediately, but 20 minutes later, I got a selfie of him in his work apron, grease on his cheek, holding up a thumbs up. I laughed so hard I nearly cried again. The next morning, my inbox was flooded. It started with a post from Danielle. She'd snapped a photo of me twirling in the gym, the satin flowing around me like liquid light. Her caption read, "Her dad sold his prized Harley to get her the dream dress. A real king, a real daughter. #heart-melting, #best dad ever." By noon, the post had over 11,000 shares on Facebook. Twitter had screenshots. Instagram pages were reposting with captions like, "This is what love looks like." A few people started tagging clothing brands and news outlets. I sat in bed, shell-shocked, watching the numbers rise. "Dad," I yelled downstairs, "you're going viral." He called back, "Is that a disease?" I laughed, ran down and showed him the post. He blinked a few times, then squinted at his own photo. "They really posted me looking like this. You didn't tell me I had grease on my nose." I snorted, "You looked perfect." Later that day, a message request popped up in my DMs. The profile had a blue checkmark. Maison Alara. I froze. Maison Alara was one of the top luxury fashion houses in the country. Their gowns graced red carpets and Met galas. They were untouchable, mythical. The message read, "We saw your story, and were deeply moved by your father's sacrifice. Please let us know if we can reach out for something special. We believe people like you deserve moments of beauty and recognition." I didn't even know how to respond. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then Dad walked in, holding a wrench. "You look like you saw a ghost." I told him everything. He just chuckled. "A fancy brand, huh? That's sweet of them. But Dad, it's Maison Alara. This could be huge." He sat down beside me, wiped his hands with a rag. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. But don't let the sparkle distract you from what's real. Last night, you in that dress, with your smile shining, that was enough for me." I smiled, but part of me still couldn't believe how the world had seen what I saw in him all along. By Monday, the local news station had reached out. Then the Today Show. Someone tagged a journalist from BuzzFeed. My story was everywhere. Dad started getting texts from friends he hadn't spoken to in years. "I saw you on TikTok," one read. "You're famous now." He'd reply with things like, "God help me," or "Do I need a manager?" Meanwhile, Maison Alara emailed me a formal invitation. "Dear Amara, your story has touched our entire creative team. As a token of appreciation, and because we believe in celebrating moments of light, we would like to offer you a custom-made graduation dress from our studio. We understand you already had your special moment, and this is not meant to replace it, but to honor it. No media, no strings, just a gift." I read the email 3 times, then forwarded it to Dad. He replied, "Wow, they really mean it." They did. 2 weeks later, a velvet case arrived at our door, hand-delivered by a courier. The dress inside was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Midnight blue, sequins like stars. A long silk train with my initials stitched inside. It wasn't just elegant, it was powerful. But here's the thing, I didn't cry when I saw it. Not the way I did when I opened Dad's box. Because as stunning as it was, nothing could ever compare to that night. To that dress. To the weight of love stitched into every inch of satin. I decided to wear Maison Alara's gift to graduation. It felt like the closing of a chapter. A new beginning, yes. but also a thank you letter to the man who made my senior year unforgettable. Graduation day felt unreal. The kind of surreal joy you'd bottle if you could. The sun painted the school courtyard gold. Folding chairs lined up like soldiers. A sea of blue gowns, mortarboards, and anticipation. I wore Mason Alara's midnight blue dress under my gown, its silk brushing softly against my legs as I walked. People kept whispering when they saw me, not just because of the dress, but because they knew. The dress story girl. The daughter of the man who traded his dream for hers. I wasn't embarrassed, I stood taller. When they called my name, Amara Lee Winslow, a roar erupted. I walked across the stage, shook hands, smiled for the camera, but I didn't look at the audience. I looked for him. There 3 rows back, in the folding chair he almost didn't fit into, was my dad, in a suit that hadn't seen daylight since Mom's funeral. His tie was crooked, his eyes were glassy, and when I met his gaze, he gave me a thumbs up and mouthed, "I'm proud of you." Later, during the reception, Principal Hargrove asked if I'd like to say a few words, off the cuff. I almost said no, but then I remembered what this journey had cost, what it had taught me. I stepped up to the mic. I was going to talk about school. I began, but something happened this year that changed everything for me. I want to tell you about a dress. Laughter rippled through the crowd. People leaned in. I shared the story, how my dad said no, how he sacrificed, how he surprised me. I told them about the dress, the dance, the moment I felt like magic. I didn't mention Mason Alara, because this wasn't about a brand. This was about him. And in that moment, I finished. I realized that sometimes, the most expensive things in the world are paid for with love, not money. Silence. Then applause, standing ovation. I looked at Dad. His hands were clasped tightly in front of his mouth. He couldn't even clap, just sat there, shaking his head with a smile like, "That's my kid." The champagne dress was dry cleaned, boxed and returned to its satin hanger, but I couldn't just let it live in my closet. So I asked Dad if we could display it, frame it behind glass like a gallery piece. He laughed at first. "You want to hang it on the wall?" "Yes," I said, "it's not a dress, it's a monument." We cleared out the reading nook, in the corner of the living room, hung it up with velvet backing, put a small brass plaque beneath it that read, "One night, one father's love, forever remembered." Everyone who visited the house asked about it, and every time Dad would try to brush it off. "Just a dress," he'd say, but I saw the way he looked at it, when he thought I wasn't watching. One day, he caught me taking photos of the display. "You showing it off again?" he teased. I smiled. "I'm applying for a scholarship. The essay theme is a moment that changed your life." He stepped closer, put a hand on my shoulder. "This moment changed mine too." That night, we sat on the porch and talked like we hadn't in a long time. About Mom, about high school, about dreams that cost us everything, and ones that didn't cost a dime. "Would you have done it if no one ever found out?" I asked. He looked confused. "What?" "The dress, selling the bike, sacrificing what you loved for me. If the world never knew, if I never went viral." He didn't even blink. "Of course I would've. I didn't do it for the world. I did it for you." I thought the story was over. But one afternoon in late July, we got a letter in the mail, not an email, not a DM, a letter handwritten, on thick paper with a gold stamp. It was from the CEO of Mason Alara. She wrote about how my story had sparked something in their company, inspired a design team, moved seamstresses to tears. She said they had launched a limited collection, the Winslow line, featuring affordable formal wear inspired by the dress I wore to the dance. A portion of the profits would go to a scholarship fund for students with single parents. I was speechless. Dad read the letter 3 times, then said, "They named a line after you." I shook my head. "No, after us." A week later, they flew us to their New York headquarters. We toured their design house. I met the seamstresses who'd recreated the look. I saw sketches of other gowns inspired by girls like me, quiet fighters, dreamers, daughters. Before we left, they asked if I'd like to say something on camera. For a brand campaign, no script, just heart. I said yes. When the camera started rolling, I looked into the lens and said, "Some girls are lucky enough to have dresses made for them, but I had something better. I had a dad who gave me everything when he had nothing left to give. And because of him, I'll never forget who I am." They used that quote in the ad. When it aired, the screen faded to black and then read, "Dedicated to the man who bought the dress before the world knew the story." August came with its usual blaze of sun, the scent of pavement after rain, and the quiet hum of a summer winding down. One afternoon, while Dad was mowing the lawn, my phone buzzed with a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something told me not to. Hello. Hi, is this Amara Winslow? A gentle voice asked. This is Clara from Orlia Boutique. My breath caught. She continued, we just wanted you to know. We've had dozens of girls coming in asking for the dress. The champagne satin, the pearl straps. Everyone knows it as your dress now. I laughed floored. That's surreal. Well, Clara said, we'd like to feature it. A permanent fixture in our front window. Not the original, of course, but a replica with your story next to it. My heart swelled. They weren't asking for the viral version. Not the glamour, not the designer, but the moment that started it all. The dress my father gave me from the sweat of his brow and the beat of his heart. Clara added, and if you're free this weekend, we'd love for you and your father to come in and unveil it. I hung up, dazed. Ran downstairs to find Dad wiping sweat from his brow. I told him everything. He stared for a moment, then muttered, they want me at a boutique. I grinned, you're the star of the show, Dad. That Saturday, he wore his freshly cleaned work boots and a button-up Mom had given him years ago. I wore the Alara graduation dress. When we walked in, the boutique was glowing. And there it was, the replica, displayed under warm lights. Next to it, a framed plaque titled, The Dress She'll Never Forget. In honor of a father's sacrifice and a daughter's dream. People clapped. Dad turned crimson. I whispered, just breathe. He whispered back, you owe me a burger after this. College move-in day came like a slow wave that finally crashed. I was accepted to Emerson University. A 5-hour drive away. The campus was beautiful. The writing program even better. Everything I wanted was waiting, but leaving Dad. That was another kind of heartbreak. The night before I left, I walked into the living room. He was sitting in his armchair, staring at the dress on the wall. Jazz played softly in the background. You okay? I asked. He nodded, just thinking. I sat on the floor beside him, like I used to as a kid. Mom would be proud, he said. I know I already said it, but it hits harder tonight. We didn't speak for a few minutes. Then he reached behind his chair and pulled out a package. Small, wrapped in simple brown paper. What's this? Something your mom left behind. He said, I didn't want to give it to you until I knew you were ready. Inside was a notebook, hand-stitched leather cover. Inside, page after page of my mom's handwriting. Letters, quotes, journal entries. And halfway through, a design sketch. The dress. The same champagne satin gown. Notes in the margin. For Amara's senior dance. Soft shimmer, pearls like stars. She'll shine like sunlight in this. Tears ran down my cheeks. She designed it before she got sick. Dad said, I found it in her art box after she passed. I took it to the boutique and asked them to bring it to life. They didn't just sell me a dress, they fulfilled her dream. I hugged him, trembling. That night I realized I hadn't just worn a dress. I had worn my mother's love, my father's sacrifice, and a future stitched by the people who believed in me. Campus life moved fast. Classes, dorm life, late-night ramen. But every time I opened my closet and saw the Alara gown beside the framed photo of me in the dress, I remembered. One afternoon, my professor gave us an assignment. Write about a single object that changed your life. There was no question in my mind. I wrote about the champagne dress, the bike my dad sold, the way he fumbled with the box that night, trying to hide his fear that I wouldn't like it, the tears, the twirl, the dance. But I ended the piece with this. The dress was never just fabric. It was proof that love doesn't need applause to be real, that the quiet sacrifices, the ones no one sees, can become the most unforgettable. That essay won a campus award, got published in a student anthology. I sent a copy home. A week later, Dad sent me a photo of himself standing next to the dress at Orlia Boutique. Still framed, still shining. He texted, she'll never forget, neither will I. Years later, I came home for winter break. The house looked the same. The framed dress still hung in its spot, now behind a new glass frame Dad had installed to keep it dust-free. We were having hot cocoa when I looked at him and asked, do you ever regret selling the bike? He smiled, never. Then he added, but don't be surprised if you come home one day and see another one in the garage. A fixer-upper, maybe you can help this time. I laughed, wrapped my arm around him, because I knew, no matter how many dresses came and went, no matter how many headlines, or awards, or speeches, I'd never forget the one that started it all. The one my dad gave me. The dress I'll never forget. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, and share for more stories.